So, this is Future Geo after the video is actually made poppin' over here. I did not see this tweet before I made this video. It's talking about how apparently Andreas Athanasiou has been linked to Montreal. This is from Rick Dhaliwal over here on TSN 1040. The quote reads that he has heard that interest was there. So for all the stuff that we talked about Mike Hoffman in this video, just kind of replace Mike Hoffman and put in Hoffman and or Athanasiou whenever your mind sees Hoffman. It'd be too much work to go out there and redo everything, so I'm just coming in here from the future to let you know about that. But now let's get over with the actual video. So at the time of this video's recording, we actually haven't really begun that second wave of moves yet. We've had the Duclair signing, we've had a few minor trades here and there, but what was to be defined as the second wave of signings, trades, etc. on big magnitudes, it hasn't really begun yet. But I will say, the second wave of huge NHL trade rumors and speculation has indeed started up, and it's going wild. And today we're talking about something that was mentioned on a recent episode of the 31 Thoughts podcast by Elliotte Friedman, and this is one you're going to want to hear. But before we get all of that underway, I want to give a big shout out to all of you who commented 4-leaf clovers in yesterday's Montreal Canadiens video. As always, stick over to the end of this video, make sure you watch it to the end in order to find out today's comment of the video for a chance to be featured in the next Canadiens video. So, today we're citing Elliotte Friedman on the 31 Thoughts podcast, who recently came out and he said this. Here's a tweet from Evan talking about what Friedman says he heard that Montreal might not be done adding for next season. Bergevin wants to continue to strengthen his lineup. It's clear that Bergevin likes his chances to make a run with this division alignment. Now, to be clear, Friedge said the first two lines over here that the Canadiens may not be done adding, and they want to continue strengthening their lineup. The last sentence over here, it's clear that MB likes his chances to run in this division, was the writer of the tweet, Evan Shattenkirk, talking about it himself. And immediately after this tweet was posted, we had a whole bunch of Habs fans going over and giving their own opinions as to who the Canadiens could go after, what are the options for this team, and just the overall thought process behind, quote-unquote, making the team better and adding to the lineup. Because today the Canadiens have about $380,000 in projected cap space, and they have a boatload of guys they're going to need to sign next season. Deneau, Armia, Lehkonen, Weal, Kotkaniemi, and then you have Mete as well. All these guys need contracts. So, if you're going out there, if you're Marc Bergevin and you say, okay, I want to make this team better in the short term, I want to add guys, I want to make this lineup stronger, what options do you have? Well, firstly, you could go that free agency route, and that's something that I've been seeing a lot of Habs fans speculating on, whether or not it's a Mike Hoffman, who is still available on the market, who might be a target of Marc Bergevin. There was talk earlier on saying that the Canadiens were interested in a Hoffman before they eventually got to Foley. So, who knows if the Canadiens are in a spot where that interest could be rekindled. But everybody's talking about the money too. If you're going to go after a Hoffman, what exactly are you going to do to free up that money? Because you're not going to get Hoffman for anything less than $5 million, let alone something in the $380,000 range. So it sparked up another conversation that we're going to be having here today about trading any of these Canadiens guys who are indeed making a significant amount of money. For example, Joel Armia is making $2.6 million. Jordan Weal is making $1.4. Paul Byron's a name who has been mentioned in this conversation that I've seen, making $3.4 million AAV, and you also have a few other guys that might be on the block just in terms of their overall cap hit and the way this situation kind of works itself out. So, that's the question that I'm asking here in this video. If the Canadiens go out there and they make a trade, let's say they trade Paul Byron and Brett Kulak, I guess. If you take these two cap hits, Byron's making 3.4 and Kulak is making 1.8, so it's just about 2. That's about $5.2-ish million of cap space freed, plus the $380,000 you had before. That's about $5.5 million. Would you do that for the opportunity to sign a Mike Hoffman on a one-year deal? Now, Paul Byron is a fan favorite in Montreal. Everybody kind of knows that. He plays with a lot of heart. Everybody kind of knows how good this guy is at skating and annoying the heck out of opponents. But If you're out there with the Canadiens and you're confident with a D-core of Weber, Petrie, Edmondson, Sherratt, Romanov, and Mete, would you take that upgrade of having a Hoffman instead of a Byron? And that's just one hypothetical situation, because this conversation cannot be had without discussing a trade of some sorts. Everybody's been talking about a whole bunch of other Montreal Canadiens players who may or may not be capable of being on the move. Again, all these other guys who are on here expiring on UFA deals next year. Armia's making 2.6. That's a nice, solid amount. Jordan Weal's making 1.4. If you really want to trade some of these guys in the middle of your lineup, why not say it and then, okay, let's thrust a Ryan Paling out there, or let's go out there and get another guy from Laval who is ready to play in the NHL. Let's give Alexander Belzile a chance. I don't know. When you have a forward core that's guaranteed of a top 9 in 3 centers with Suzuki, Kotkaniemi, and Deneau, and you have 6 wingers in Drouin, Tatar, and let's say Arturi Lehkonen, and on the right side you have Gallagher, Toffoli, Anderson, all of a sudden you're leaving bottom 6 minutes, 4th line minutes actually, for the remaining guys in your lineup. You have Paul Byron that's in there. You have Jordan Weal who's in there. You have all the other guys in the AHL who are in there, like a Ryan Paling who might be able to crack the lineup depending on how he actually plays in camp and all that. Not to mention the other guys you have too, like Jake Evans who might crack a spot. Who knows? There are certainly so many options here, and at the end of the day, it's a good problem to have when you have the forward depth that the Montreal Canadiens do. Because if you want to trade any of these guys to make room for another free agent signing like a Mike Hoffman on a $5.5 million by a 1-year deal, then all of a sudden you have the opportunity to do that. And if it's Friedman coming out here on his own podcast, the 31 Thoughts podcast, and saying, yep, I've been hearing it, man, the Canadiens want to add, they want to make their lineup better. There's certainly a realm of possibility where that does exist. If you want to take a look at the Canadiens and their forward core and the options and the market, you can trade a Paul Byron or whatever for future considerations. You can do something like that if you really wanted to. We've seen Detroit make 2 straight future considerations trades, some where they've acquired nothing and others where they've given up nothing. But that indeed is the status of the market right now. And with this market being in a position where it's actually revitalizing itself, it's getting back into shape, we're seeing trades made. We saw a minor trade yesterday between the Predators and the Senators. We saw that trade with Dmytro Temeshov, the Islanders, and the Red Wings a week ago. We saw signings like Duclair and other guys like Drake Caggiula too be actually installed. There is a market now for the Canadiens to go out there because all of a sudden, with the NHL being confirmed, teams are wanting to make their teams better. And now MARC BERGEVIN is getting in on that. He doesn't want to go too heavy. We've noted this before. Patrick Laine, Taylor Hall, yeah, he didn't even want to touch those guys because he said the price would be too expensive. But for Mike Hoffman, who already had interest from Montreal before they acquired Toffoli, there certainly is an option here if you want to go out there and put a Mike Hoffman somewhere in the bottom 6 of your lineup, because you can definitely do that with the depth this team has. And if you really wanted to do that, hey, you could probably do that. Have a Mike Hoffman as the last left winger in your top 9, I guess. Move Arturi Lehkonen down onto the bottom line. Have it centered by Ryan Paling and have Jake Evans on there too. How does that sound for a lineup? You have a first line of Tatar, Deneau, Gallagher, a second line of Drouin, I don't know, Suzuki and Toffoli, a third line of Mike freaking Hoffman with Jesperi Kotkaniemi and Josh Anderson, and then Lehkonen, Paling, Evans on the 4th line. How does that sound? You know, like, if that's what you get after getting away from a Paul Byron, honestly, sign me up. I don't know if you're gonna go out there and talk about, oh, the attitude issues or the family issues or the wife issue with Erik Karlsson and all that stuff, but like, come on. We had no problems with Mike Hoffman, at least publicly. That was said into the media when Mike Hoffman was over there in the Florida Panthers system a few years in a row, scoring 30 goals in his sleep. He is indeed a legit NHL player, and it's the reason why everybody who's seen this Elliotte Friedman quote has been like, okay, it's gotta be Hoffman, right? Is it Hoffman? Hoffman's gonna be the guy who's definitely being looked at here, right? All the evidence would point to it, and when it comes to who the Canadiens could target, we haven't had anybody else who has been in this discussion that was at the very least publicly mentioned like Mike Hoffman was. So who knows? Even though there are so many other players that are out there, Mikael Granlund is out there still at the time of this recording. You had Anthony Duclair, who only re-signed recently. Mike Hoffman was the one that is probably the big fish, and when you hear Bergevin wanting to go out there and improve his team, yeah, you don't really think, oh, who's the most conservative guy that they could go after? Let's go for the big dogs, you know? No BS over here. Take the risk while you can. Let's go completely full in on it, and let's try to go for Hoffman or whatever. But that's just me spitting off the top of my head here, talking about the Montreal Canadiens. Comment down below if you made it to the end of this video. Joe Exotic, because we're talking so much about Florida and the Florida Panthers that I'm just kind of thinking of Tiger King, you know? So comment down in the comment section below, Joe Exotic, and tell me what is the funniest moment of Tiger King if you have seen that. And, you know, if you do that, because you made it to the end of this video, I appreciate that. I'll give you a chance to be featured in the next Canadiens video. So talk to me in the comments about Joe Exotic. Talk to me about this Canadiens idea over here. Would you trade Paul Byron and or Kulak to acquire a Mike Hoffman via free agency? Or if you're here and Bergevin wants to add, is there another avenue you would explore instead? Tell me all that in the comments below if you enjoyed this video. Trolls 99. And bye.